In a league fueled by explosions, viral dunks, and loud personalities, how do you explain that one of the most dominant players in the NBA today seems to play in silence? How does an athlete who rarely appears in massive commercials, who doesn't live off flashy highlights, and who plays in a small market manage to work his way, game by game, into the conversation of true superstars? Shai Gilgeous Alexander didn't arrive shouting, he arrived in control. While many are still debating whether he belongs among the league's elite, his opponents already know the answer, because they feel it firsthand. Every hesitation, every change of pace, every clutch possession tells the same story. Shai doesn't ask for respect, he takes it. And that's exactly what we're breaking down today. 5 clear, deep, undeniable reasons why Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is no longer knocking on the door of stardom. He's already sitting at the table. Before we continue, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Do you think Shai is already a superstar, or is there still something missing? Because after this video, that debate won't be the same. Every superstar has a moment that casual fans barely notice, but real basketball minds recognize immediately. It's not a game-winning shot or a viral dunk. It's the moment a player stops reacting to the game and starts dictating it. For Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that turning point came when he stopped being treated as a promising young talent and started being prepared for as the #1 problem every night. The NBA is ruthless in that way. Once the scouting report changes, everything changes. Help defense comes earlier. Traps get more aggressive. Space disappears. And that's exactly where many young players break. Shai didn't just survive that shift, he thrived in it. The Oklahoma City Thunder stopped being just a rebuilding team with intriguing pieces and became a team built around Shai's total control of the game. He stopped scoring because the game allowed it and started scoring because the game had no choice. That turning point becomes clear when you look at how defenses guard him. Long wings, physical defenders, constant switches, traps in the pick and roll. None of it knocks him off balance. If anything, it slows him down in the best possible way. While others rush under pressure, Shai decelerates. He turns contact into advantage, tiny pockets of space into his own territory. That's when the league realizes something unsettling. The game has already slowed down too much for him. It's no longer about raw explosion, but about reading, patience, and surgical precision. And that's not the mark of a prospect. That's the signature of a finished product. There's also a psychological shift that defines this stage. Shai began to fully embrace responsibility in the most uncomfortable moments of the game. Final 2 minutes, tight score, defense locked in, waiting for a mistake. The ball doesn't just find him, it stays with him. Not because there are no other options, but because everyone trusts that the right decision will come from his hands. That kind of trust only exists when a player repeatedly proves he understands the game at its highest level. The Thunder started winning games they weren't supposed to win, and more often than not, there was a common thread. Shai controlling every possession like a conductor who doesn't need to raise his voice to be heard. Another clear sign of this turning point is consistency. Superstars aren't defined by peaks, they're defined by presence. Night after night, regardless of opponent, arena, or circumstances, Shai delivers impact. There's no longer surprise when he dominates. The surprise comes when he doesn't. The league adjusted, defenses adjusted, and still, he kept producing with ruthless efficiency. That's when perception changes. Coaches no longer game plan around containing the young Shai. They game plan around surviving him. And maybe the most telling sign of all is how he carries himself. There's no rush, no desperation for validation. He plays like someone who knows exactly who he is. You see it in his body language, his shot selection, his calm after mistakes. That kind of composure usually comes after years of deep playoff battles. But Shai built it step by step. Through losses, growth, and constant pressure. The moment he stopped being a prospect didn't come with fireworks. It came with something far more dangerous for the rest of the league: control. And when a young player gains that level of control, the question stops being, when will he become a superstar? And becomes, who's actually going to stop him? There's a kind of greatness that doesn't need to announce itself. It simply shows up on the scoreboard, in coaching reports, and in the quiet frustration of opponents walking off the court. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander embodies that kind of dominance. In an era where stars chase attention with logo threes and viral moments, he's built his rise on something far rarer: relentless efficiency paired with high volume. We're not talking about empty numbers on a losing team. We're talking about production that translates directly into wins. scoring over 30 a night, elite shooting efficiency, constant trips to the free throw line, all without hijacking the offense or forcing the game. Those are MVP-level markers. And in Shea's case, they arrive almost quietly. What makes it even more impressive is how those numbers are created. There's no over-reliance on the three-point shot, no chaotic usage rate. Shea scores where the game allows him to. Mid-range pull-ups, slashes to the rim, floaters, smart cuts, and flawless reads of mismatches. While many stars ride hot streaks and cold spells, Shea delivers something far more valuable: reliability. You know what you're getting, and you still can't stop it. And context matters. Defenses enter every game with one priority: slow him down. Every scheme is built around taking him away. And yet, he continues to produce. That's the line between good numbers and meaningful dominance. When a player thrives despite being the clear focal point of every defensive game plan, the stats stop being statistics. They become evidence. There's also a detail that rarely makes headlines, but that sharper analysts know how to value: impact on both ends of the floor. Shea isn't just a scorer. He leads in steals, anticipates passing lanes, disrupts plays before they even develop. That creates extra possessions, shifts momentum, and fuels transitions that decide games. True superstars don't just put up points, they influence the game on multiple layers, and Shea does that consistently. Maybe the reason this dominance still feels quiet has to do with market and personality. Oklahoma City doesn't come with the same spotlight as major markets, and Shea doesn't chase attention off the court. But inside the league, the math has already been done. When you deliver MVP-level numbers, with efficiency, defensive impact, and wins, the conversation stops being aesthetic and becomes factual. The silence around Shea doesn't diminish his greatness, it amplifies it. Because while many are still debating whether he deserves the superstar label, he keeps stacking evidence that's impossible to ignore. In an NBA obsessed with speed, spacing, and instant decisions, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander moves in the opposite direction, and somehow dominates because of it. His greatest weapon isn't an explosive first step or a logo three, it's total control of pace. Shai plays like he has an internal metronome, adjusting every possession to the tempo that hurts the defense the most. When opponents speed up, he slows it down. When they sit back, he attacks the space with surgical precision. That kind of control is incredibly rare, especially in a young player, because it requires something you can't teach: emotional reading of the game. That control shows up in the details. The way he uses his body to shield the ball. The last-second angle change on a drive. The way he manipulates defenders with his eyes before attacking the opposite space. He doesn't force advantages. He waits for them to reveal themselves. And that breaks modern defensive systems, which are built to react to patterns. Against Shai, there is no fixed pattern. There's only constant adjustment. And by the time the defense reacts, it's already too late. That same mastery shows up in his decision-making. Shai rarely wastes possessions. His shots come from spots he owns. His passes arrive the moment help commits. He understands that every possession carries weight, and he treats each one accordingly. That's a trait shared by the greatest players in history, the ability to make the game feel controllable, even in chaos. And what makes that control truly devastating is the effect it has on opponents. There's no panic, no rushing, no forced plays, just the quiet certainty that Shai is always one step ahead. When a player reaches that level of command, he stops being just talented, he becomes inevitable. There's a fundamental difference between a great player and a true superstar: the ability to turn talent into consistent wins. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has already crossed that line. His leadership doesn't come from speeches or theatrics, but from example. In a young Oklahoma City locker room, that matters. He leads by playing the right way, taking responsibility in the hardest moments, and maintaining the same intensity regardless of the score. That kind of leadership creates standards, and standards build winning cultures. The impact is visible in the Thunder's growth. Young players develop faster when they know exactly where to look in pressure moments. Shai becomes that compass. When the game tightens, the ball finds him, and everything else falls into place. That confidence doesn't come from hype. It's built through repetition, through countless possessions where he makes the right read, over and over again. Another separator is his clutch performance. In late-game situations, when everything slows down and every possession matters, he doesn't hide or defer. He reads the defense, chooses the most efficient option, and lives with the result. That presence changes how opponents view the Thunder. They're no longer a young, unpredictable team. They're a group with a closer, someone who demands respect. And then there's the defensive side, often overlooked but deeply impactful. Shai generates steals, deflections, and turnovers that flip games in minutes. When his leadership extends to both ends of the floor, the effect multiplies. He doesn't just elevate himself, he lifts the entire team. And when a player becomes the gravitational center of winning, the label of superstar stops being subjective. It becomes inevitable. Looking at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander today, the question is no longer whether he belongs among the NBA's elite. It's what kind of superstar he's becoming, because there's a difference between shining for a few seasons and building something that lasts. What Shai is doing points clearly to the latter. His game isn't built on trends or temporary advantages. It's built on fundamentals, feel, and control, qualities that age well and sustain greatness. His legacy is already taking shape in how he's redefined the ceiling of the Oklahoma City Thunder. In a short time, he's gone from best player on the roster to the axis around which everything turns. Young players grow faster, the franchise regains relevance, winning becomes an expectation. That's the kind of impact that transcends box scores. And the future? It's even more intimidating for the rest of the league. Shai is still entering his prime. With more playoff reps, more defensive adjustments, and more responsibility, his command of the game will only sharpen. MVPs, deep playoff runs, league-defining moments, these no longer feel like distant projections. They feel inevitable. In the end, the clearest sign that Shai has arrived is the shift in the conversation around him. We're no longer asking if he can be a superstar. We're asking what kind of superstar he's going to be. And when a player reaches that point, the debate is already over. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't trying to get there, he's already here. So now the question is yours to answer. Is Shai already a true NBA superstar, or does he still have something to prove in the playoffs? Is he already on the same level as names like Luka, Jokic, and Giannis, or is there still another tier to climb? Drop your take in the comments, because this conversation is just getting started. If you enjoyed this deeper, more thoughtful breakdown, hit the like button, share it with that friend who keeps saying Shai is underrated, and subscribe for more stories like this. Some stars shine bright, others light up an entire era.